Hello and welcome to another edition of Pioneer Valley Life. I'm James Sullivan. We're here in the studios of Easthampton's eMedia. My guest today is Ed Malachowski from Valley Free Radio, WXOJ LP 103.3 FM in Northampton. Welcome, Ed.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for eMedia and for Pioneer Valley Life. And you,
Yep.
James?
Good.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. So, when I introduced the station, people would have heard the letters LP added on to the WXOJ. So I think we should start there in kind of helping people learn what LP means, which is really low power is what it means. So
Correct.
if you can address that a little bit, that'd be great.
It goes back to 2000. The year 2000, the FCC had the idea that they would be able to add more stations on the dial by incorporating some stations that are not in major markets, but they would have to deem them non-interfering with other stations. So what they ended up doing is authorizing 255 stations nationwide in 2000 that would be low power ones, and they're all at 100 watts. So here in Northampton, where we are at 103.3, there isn't huge competition in the dial, in that part of the dial, so we don't have a lot of conflict of interfering with other stations. But it was set up so that these stations didn't interfere with the major markets. And in 2000, there was no streaming. There was a much different landscape, and we had the opportunity in towns like Northampton to try to establish their own low power station, because community radio had basically not existed. And this was an attempt by the FCC to try to bring in different voices. And it was kind of prompted by what was the public outcry that the airwaves were supposed to be the people's airwaves. And it got dominated by commercial interests. So things started to pop up that were called pirate radio stations. And there were pirate radio stations everywhere. And the FCC wasn't too pleased with the development of having unlicensed, unauthorized folks who have the technology to grab the airwaves. So they responded by creating the low power opportunities. And in 2001, Northampton people got interested in possibly starting a local station here. We actually started by having a pirate radio station on Francis Crow's front lawn with a couple of folks, Ed Russell in particular, who was a pirate and ham radio guy, as well as Will Hall. 2 or 3 other people were really instrumental in starting up the interest locally. And there was a group in Philadelphia that came up to Northampton called the Prometheus Project. And they were trying to start a bunch of low power stations, and anyone that was interested, they would have a meeting. So there was a meeting in Northampton that had a number of people that turned out to be still at Valley Free Radio, and the spark was lit. They had a very short window. The FCC did not make it easy to become an LP FM station. There was a 5-day window, and you needed to raise a certain amount of money, interest, and you had to find a facility, and you had to find a place for the tower. So you had to do a lot of work in 5 days, have the proof that you were ready in 5 days, and a lot of them were deemed not ready. And so out of the 255, we were one of very few that became operational. And I think right now there are 14 in the state of Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Many of the ones in Massachusetts are religious-based. A church will get a broadcast license for their low-power station to broadcast services. Community colleges also are the other activity. So community radio is fit within that. In Massachusetts, there are 6 religious out of the 14 a couple community radios, and in a couple college in
Right.
community college ones.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that the structure of Valley Free Radio has a lot to do with it as well. When you talk about community radio, it is a nonprofit.
Completely nonprofit, I guarantee, and it is also all volunteer. We don't have any paid staff.
Right, and that's amazing.
And so when you think about the equipment that needs to be there and the equipment repair and upgrades, what we have is we have a passionate group of local people who are interested in radio.
Right.
And we have a board of directors that helps guide us. We have a bunch of committees, all volunteer, and we run 2 fund drives every year. And we do one in the spring, one in the fall to raise some money just to keep paying the bills, but everything is volunteer.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about the bills, you have a facility in Florence, actually.
We're on Pine Street in Florence, yeah. The old elementary school, actually.
Right.
A couple of our programmers went to school in that building. And so it's a familiar place in town, in Easthampton, in Florence. So we've been in the basement there for 19 years, because in 2001, we raised the money, we got the license, and we've been going on air since 2005, August 7th, 2005. And so we'll be celebrating our 19th birthday this summer. And next year we plan to have a big old party, James. You'll be around for that for our 20th anniversary.
That'll be great. Look forward to that.
Because all of those low power stations that got approved, there's only a handful that are still around 20 years later.
I've read that over the last 20 years or so, the FCC does release a certain number of applications. It doesn't mean that everybody gets approved.
Right.
But I think the last time they made some more bandwidth available was it last year or the year before?
Yeah, there was a large push last year after COVID. Kind of closed down a lot of stations. So there was an opportunity, but it's a very limited window, and you have to have a prepared group of people ready to go. And so they're not making it, they don't want everybody to have a radio station. They want to have some control over it. So I don't know the numbers for how many, but there was definitely a boost in community radio stations, in low power FMs within the last year or two. But it's still a very small number nationwide.
Yeah. So is there something still out there like the Prometheus Project that will consult?
There are definitely consultants out there. The Prometheus folks are in Philadelphia, and nationwide they're not consulting with everybody, but they were really instrumental in helping our 20 years ago. I don't know who's out there right now. Certainly other low power stations chat. There's Facebook groups, there's user guides, there's a group of low power folks that get together that try to help each other with questions, problems, people that have been at it for nearly 20 years like we have. We kind of try to mentor some of the others. If there's any communication, we'll be glad to help with those kind of technical questions usually. But when you're starting back up, believe me, when we started, it was a rocky and passionate road. And things have really settled down the last 8 years that I've been there. And it's because there are 46 individual programs by local neighbors of ours. There's a gambit of lots of different styles of shows. Some really professional, some very down to earth. So we have a wide variety of interest from our neighbors in starting up shows. Some of them are high school students from Northampton High. Some of them are seniors from the Senior Center in Easthampton, and as well as the whole area. We are looking for folks from everywhere in our valley, from southern Vermont all the way through down to Springfield. We have some Holyoke folks interested right now, which is really excellent. We are always looking for new shows. So.
Right. One of the interesting things about low power is that it doesn't broadcast out to a wide range. It could be as little as 3 to 5 miles, I've read, but
yeah, ours is
depending
closer to
upon
20
the local,
miles,
yeah.
but the geography has a lot to
Yes.
do with it too. Springfield has a hard time because of Mount Tom is in the way.
Yeah.
We don't have, we have a transmitter that's in that is in our neighborhood. It's 67 foot tall, but it's not tall enough to get over the mountains or too
Right.
far away. So
Right.
where I live in Montague, we get the station. If you go to Greenfield, you get the station. Certainly Amherst, Hadley, and further down into Easthampton. So we hope that that's sufficient, but we're also streaming at valleyfreeradio.org, so everyone can listen no matter where they are.
Right. That's the big thing these days is you don't need a physical piece of hardware called a radio anymore to listen to radio
In fact, they're
broadcasts.
kind of rare to find them.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, even in new vehicles,
Right.
not
Yeah.
really always equipped with radios. So,
right.
yeah, but we're passionate about radio as radio. We do have folks that stream in 5 continents. We have some programs that are dedicated to Asian bands, boy bands, J-Rock, OK Asia, and iHeart J-Rock are both broadcast worldwide, and we have thousands of listeners in East Asia and in different parts of Asia, Japan, Korea, because of that content. And
Right.
so when it becomes fund drive time, we're getting donations from around the world.
Yeah. That's interesting. You have a bunch of locally produced programs, but you also supplement with some syndicated programs that could come from a variety of places.
We started as a Pacifica affiliate, and we still are. Not all of our syndicated shows come from Pacifica. We do broadcast Democracy Now! At the 5 o'clock hour every day. Up until recently, David Pacman, who was a legacy person from our radio station, was broadcast as the morning news. He has disconnected all radio and TV. He's going completely online. That just got announced, so we'll be adjusting to that. But we have syndicated from a wide variety of sources.
Yeah.
And there's many broadcasts out there that are from indigenous communities. There's broadcasts from other parts of the country that maybe we don't have in our regular lineup. We try to get as much diversity in the airwaves as possible because that's really our mission statement. Other folks, the commercial stations, have that covered. We're really looking for the underappreciated genres and the underrepresented folks, not just for music, but for public affairs broadcasting.
Right. Yeah,
So-
that's the thing to distinguish Valley Free Radio is the fact that it's not just music.
Oh, no.
It can be programs on a variety of subjects, all of which probably appeal to some subset of the population of the Pioneer Valley.
Yep. We have long had things as diverse as Civil Politics, which is a political show that aims to be civil, which is unique. It's also Occupy the Airwaves has been on for many years. We have things like a Baha'i perspective when we talk about spirituality. We have a sports talk show. We have Bike Talk. Care Talk is 2 doctors from the local healthcare system talking about the problems that happen in our healthcare system from the inside. We have a long-running show called The Enviro Show, which is all about ecological and social justice, environmental issues. Out there, Haunted Hampshire, ghost stories. We even have Tibetan healing, where we have folks from Tibet. We have a Poetry Pub, Twilight Poetry Pub. All those are locally produced public affairs shows and pretty diverse.
Yeah.
Yep,
And you are on 24 hours a day.
we are. Yep.
I don't think that's the case with all stations, but so you've got a full day of programming to fill.
And, there are occasionally an encore presentation of a particular show that if we want something at 2 in the morning that's local content, we'll do an encore presentation of a show. But generally, people are doing live broadcasting all the way till 2 and 3 in the morning.
Right.
And then we start up again with David Pacman at 5 in the morning. So
Yeah, because there are nighthawks out there.
Yep. Yep.
Not only the people behind the microphone, but the people listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to broadcast at WMUA and did a 4 in-the-morning slot for a while, 4 to 6. And there were bakers and truck drivers and people out there making donuts and listening to the radio. And, you know, so we know that we have people listening and streaming 24/7.
Right, right. So this would be a good time to once again repeat that valleyfreeradio.org
Yes.
is where you can go to stream from anywhere. It's the internet. You don't have to be in the Pioneer Valley to stream that music.
But if you are, 103.3 on the FM dial is the way to tune us in. And you know, whenever I'm driving around, I'm tuned in to see, because there's always something surprising on the airwaves.
Right.
You never know. And from hour to hour, it could go from Tibetan healing to you know, music show to Haunted Hampshire, which is ghost stories from our area. So it can be pretty diverse from hour to hour.
Right.
And
as I was driving over here today, I was listening to a soul music show.
Yes. Yep. Yep. We are really proud of that show as well. He is specifically, Soul Patrol is specifically a legacy program of ours. Even though he's moved away, he's still, you know, been very interested in keeping up the program. We have people that leave the area, but due to technology, we can still broadcast their shows, and we do.
Right, right. And you did mention that you are kind of always probably looking for people to come in and propose new shows.
Yep.
And if they go to the website, they can find
valleyfreeradio.org. You can apply for a show. I do believe maybe, James, you've applied for a show.
Yes, I have, and luckily I have been accepted. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We look forward to getting that on the air shortly.
Right.
You know, so the process is a program committee of 7 of us. We look at all the shows that come in, and we have a lot of applications that we don't accept. But you know, some people are not really quite aware of the time commitment and the that it takes to even program a 1-hour show. And I know I have 3 of them, and it takes quite a bit of time. And you know, the reality is that some shows are really well researched, really well thought out, and we put them through the training process. Sometimes people stay for a year, sometimes people stay for 10 years. It really does matter. It doesn't matter how long, but we try to train everyone, get everyone up to professional level. And but people come and go, as you know, this valley is full of transient people, whether it's because of the academic schedule or people coming and going. And we're always looking for new, you know, we're always looking for new voices. There are underserved populations still. That's why our interest in folks from Springfield and Holyoke is strong, because they're underrepresented in our present programming right now. So we try to change that with syndicated programming, but we are constantly looking for something south of the tofu curtain, not just Northampton, but you know, the surrounding area as well as north. So if anybody's interested, you know the process is fairly simple, not that difficult. We do a 3 or 4 part training, and within a couple months you can be on the air. Right. If that's what people want to do. Yeah.
Because it's some people might think, oh, gee, the radio, how can I do that? It must be very technically oriented or whatever, very hard to do. But it's really not. You know, sitting there, certainly you're talking into a microphone. You've got a board to run. You've got CD players. You've got turntables. You've got laptops. You know, you can input your music from a variety of sources. If it's music, if you're having a community affairs show and you've got guests, well, then you've got to set up in the studio for people to come in as a live guest. There's microphones for them to talk into. So the training that you offer, and you offered the training to me, is very complete. It goes over everything, and it's not as daunting a task as some people might think. You know,
you haven't had your first show yet. We'll talk after that.
Right.
But yeah, it's not. I don't want to dissuade anyone if they think they're not technologically savvy, because what it is that the idea is what we're looking for, as opposed to, you know, the side of things. We'll get you on the air, we'll train people up, but if you have a germ of an idea for a community public affairs show, if you have an idea for a different kind of music show, we're all ears, and we train people up. We get them up to professional standards, we like to think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but the other thing is that, you're not a commercial
Right.
FM station. There's probably a different standard that they're looking for there in terms of production. But it doesn't mean that, that you're any less professional than them.
Right.
You just operate differently.
Yeah, I have sat in on commercial radio stations before myself, and as well as college radio stations. And really, I think there's no real difference in the quality between those three experiences.
Right.
And so it's really the experience of the broadcaster and the programmer. They get better. Everybody starts off with some rough edges, but we're excited about that kind of opportunity because we don't want slick radio shows that talk about the traffic, the weather, and the headline on the news. We want something in depth, and we want something that's local.
Right.
And so we have the opportunity for people to do everything from a Tibetan healing show to a Reiki master show in that kind of public affair broadcasting. And we have things as diverse as a reggae show to my twangy folk Americana show. We'd love a polka show if anybody is out there, because we know there's listeners in the area.
Yeah, there are.
We don't have a polka show. There are certain genres underrepresented that we'd love to have out there. So, we're proud of what we've been able to do, and we've made huge strides over 20 years to get to the point where, we think that our broadcast schedule is as exciting as any in the area.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that people will find on Valley Free Radio that they're not going to find anywhere else. And that's the lure of it. That's the great thing, is that, you've got somebody locally talking to a local population.
Right. I've had almost 500 guests on my show, mostly local artists, some coming to town with our local venues too. So we love to, as a music show, we love to support the ecosystem. Radio station is just one part of the ecosystem, as well as Pioneer Valley Life is another part of the ecosystem where, without publicity for our venues and for these shows that are coming through, it wouldn't be as successful. And without venues to talk about, we wouldn't have much to promote. So it's, the Iron Horse back is an exciting development in Northampton. I've been very involved with that project, as well as the Parlor Room, as well as, many other projects. We have a lot of shows that focus strictly on local talent.
Right.
And the New Music Alliance, everything from metal education for metal bands, all the way to DIY bands, local Hadley Underground bands, local punk and ska bands. I mean, every genre you might think of. We have somebody interested in that.
That's true, yeah. Not only are there people interested, but there are actually bands in the area who play that music.
Yeah.
That's that's the diversity of the musical. What you can find for music in this valley is really amazing. And
now the world of music is expanded to global, and we have global shows like Planetary Hi-Fi and Shore Leave and Warm Heart of Africa that really bring expertise in these genres that are just exploding. Green River Festival is coming up this week, and there's a ton of that kind of global music bent there that is really exciting. And so we're glad that we have people, I wouldn't know how to promote those shows, but we have people with specific interests in specific musical styles that are just encyclopedias for those genres.
Right,
and so we're really lucky that we have these folks in our community.
Right.
Like yourself, James.
Thank you. You mentioned that you have 2 fund drives a year, and those are your major funding sources. But there are other ways that you can raise money as well. And
there's underwriting, which is a form of advertising that just shows support from local companies that we're always looking to expand as well. Underwriting is a good way for a local business to to support a local station like ours, and likewise for a station like ours to give a little shine to a local business that might be interested in supporting the arts.
Right.
Whether it be public affairs shows or whether it be music shows.
Right. Because I think they can. There's a package that they can get that would include ads over the entire spectrum of programming. But
Yeah.
I think there's also the ability for underwriters to support a specific show.
Yeah, they can support your new application for a show or my shows, for a much less than a commercial station, but still, a commitment to the station by committing to that either show directly, and they would get a number of shout outs during the course of the show and the week, as many as 40 during a week as well. So we think that we're the best deal in underwriting that you can get in terms of under a couple $100, you can get 40 mentions on the radio, which, in commercial radio, it's a much different economics.
And the best thing is all the money goes to support the station because it's volunteer driven.
Mm-hmm. And, we just got 3 new CD players. We just got purchasing another turntable. All that equipment is funded by our listeners, essentially. And that's rewarding because we can pay our bills because we have listeners that help us out in the spring and the fall. We are already done with our spring fund drive. We made over $8,000. Our goal is modest at $5,000. We're not like NEPM. That has a fund drive virtually every other week, but twice a year for 1 week is where we gain most of our support.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's nice, because you're getting local support for local programming. The whole thing fits together very nicely.
It's part of that ecosystem. If your listeners want something different, they should tune in to valleyfreeradio.org or 103.3 FM. But what they should really do is go to the donate button on our website and just make a donation. And I've been very happy over the years that we've made every single one of our goals because we have a really passionate listener base as well. And hopefully some of those listeners will become programmers and complete the circle.
Right. So on the website, you can actually see a listing of all the shows. You can also see the daily schedule, or actually you can see it weekly, to see what programs are going to be running at any time. And so that's really helpful to find out what you can listen to at that time.
And the one thing that we did with last year's fund drive is we've established an archive system so that if a show is broadcast at a time that you're not able to hear it, you're able to on demand click on that show and hear it for up to 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks of broadcasting that is archived at any point. So, if my mother missed the show, she can archive, listen. Or, but the 2 week archive is really based on listener support. Those donations helped us set up the system in which we can archive for 2 week periods. Individual shows keep their shows longer, and there are ways individually that those shows can be listened to. I have a blog. Other people do similar things where, if I have a guest that I'm really proud of, I'll put that on the blog and share it around, and it'll last a little longer than the 2 week archive, but that's what we do as a station rather than as individual. We have a lot of new initiatives. Upgrading the new transmitter was one very large one. The transmitter cost a lot of money, and it took a lot of technical know-how. And shout out to all my Valley Free Board of Directors experts like Neil and Betsy, who have helped us purchase this, get it up in the air, and get it running so that, a transmitter like any other piece of equipment, what have we had in our homes or that we use that is over 20 years old? It needed a replacement. So last year's fund drive went specifically for an upgraded transmitter to keep us on the air and reliable, and a new emergency broadcast system and link to transmitter, all those things that happen like magic when we get behind the mic. It happens because there's a technology that supports it that we're able to upgrade as we need because of listener support.
Right. Let's mention your shows.
Well, I started with a Saturday show, Saturday night at 5 o'clock. It's called 9 Volt Heart. I've been doing it for 12, going on 13 years. And it's a long-form interview with a guest, virtually every week, sometimes two. They're either local music in studio with the band playing songs and chatting, or they're someone who's coming to town. Just had Dwayne Betts on this past weekend. We just had, Mikey Sweet in studio the week before that. And, just a mix of local talent and people that are coming to our local venues. And so that's what I've been featuring on 9 Volt Heart, and been doing that. Plus, it's basically folk and Americana, kind of twangier music. And I've been listening to it for decades. So really bring a lot of experience in the bluegrass world as well as the alternative country world. And that's my Saturday show. We do a Thursday morning show, which is a little bit more like a morning show that has a variety of, it starts with some jazz and it goes with maybe some classic rock throws in there, or a lot of times it's celebrating birthdays, or whether it be a specific release date. Something specifically that happened on that day or that week is the focus of the town crier. In fact, I'm going to have an actual town crier on the show coming up. The Wendell, Massachusetts town crier will be a guest on the town crier. We'll talk about what a town crier has done over years, historically as well as presently, which is going to be fun.
Great. Well, this has been great to talk to you. It's great to learn more about Valley Free Radio. As we said, valleyfreeradio.org or WXOJ-LP at 103.3 FM in Northampton.
Yes.
That's where you can find Valley Free Radio. So Ed, thanks very much for being my guest today. Thank you.
Thank you.